Hi, everyone. Welcome in. Thank you for joining us all today. I'm here with Michael from the Xano team, which you might already know by now. He's legendary around these parts, but we appreciate you all joining us for today. We have a really exciting show for you today webinar, event. We're going to be doing a lot of things, a lot of building together. We're going to be answering questions about Softr or Xano. But once we're going to get started in a couple of minutes, yeah, tell us where you're calling in from. I see we have some regulars already. Eric from Belgium, Claus from Germany. What's up, guys? Great to see you all from New York City, Vegas, Austria. It's so cool. Yeah, drop us a note where you're calling in from. I'm also going to put out a couple polls. We want to see which one of you have used Softr before or have used Xano before. See where we're at here. So I'm going to put out a Softr poll now, which I'm going to share. And then in a couple of minutes, I'm also going to put out a Xano poll as well. Love to see where you guys are at. Ben Softr builders from NC, awesome. Dominican Republic, beautiful. Texas, yeehaw. Let's go. Excited
Nice.
for it. We have a great show for you guys today. This is a really cool integration, pulling together simplicity and power with Xano and Softr. Really excited to show you. We're going to be building some stuff. We're also going to be talking through how, for those Softr Airtable users out there, how Xano might handle things differently, but what you can do with Xano to get around those or to do it differently and to add even more functionality to your builds. And for those that haven't seen Softr before, we'll show you how to build stuff, call APIs, use your action buttons, all that kind of stuff. The session will be recorded. Don't worry about that. We will automatically send you the recording after the fact. We're also going to post it on YouTube, so don't worry. We got your backs there. We also are running a promo. Michael, you want to share a little bit about the promo?
Yeah, absolutely. So, to celebrate this, integration, we're sort of doing this joint promo, so you can try out both platforms together, sort of, risk-free without paying anything. So, you can sign up for Softr Pro Plan. Is it Pro Plan or higher or just Pro Plan, JJ?
Pro plan or higher, yeah.
Pro Plan or higher, you can get 1 month free. And once you do that, you'll get information on how to get 3 months of any self-serve Xano plan, including add-ons, absolutely free. So it's a pretty sweet deal. I know on our side of things, we've never done anything like this. So really awesome opportunity to try both Softr and Xano out together for your project. So I don't see why you wouldn't do that if you hadn't tried these before. So definitely recommend it.
Yeah. Hey, all. Good to see you. So it's great. We have about 50-50 on Softr Xano side. But without any further ado, let's get into it. So introductions for the day. I'm JJ. I'm over on the Softr side. I run our community and education here. I've been in the no-code space for the last 4 or 5 years in all different platforms, teaching, building at all different levels. Michael and I have been working together for several years now in many different paths, and it's really excited to be hosting this event with you all today with Michael. Michael, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. So my name is Michael Udinsky. I'm the developer advocate lead here at Xano. I've been with Xano almost 4 years now, and that's really how I got started in the no-code space. I came from a non-technical background, and so everything I've learned has been through Xano and interacting with many community members, different tools. So kind of like to say I'm kind of a true citizen developer now in a role of developer advocate, gaining all my knowledge from no code. So can relate to many of you out there.
And Michael, you were the first employee at Zaino?
Yeah, that is correct.
So you were there from the very beginning, and your team has grown significantly. So has the stack and everything. So congrats on being there from the beginning. We have so much wealth of knowledge here with us today. So that's really cool. So I'm going to take a couple minutes just to talk about the agenda, and then we'll quickly do a quick little 5-minute showcase on what each platform can do and how you might think about using us. And then we're going to get into building. All right. So our live build today, we're going to be connecting Softr and Xano together. So we're going to show you how to make those connections, some of the things you might need in order to make that connection. We're going to show you how to set up linked fields in Xano and Softr. So for those coming from an Airtable background or maybe a different database background, it's handled a little bit differently here. And so Michael's going to talk about how they handle it and some ways that we can do this to still make those relationships happen. We're also going to set up an API in Xano we've already actually built the API, but we're going to walk you through the API that we built. It has some AI infused into it, and we're going to show you how you can trigger that API from Softr to hit Xano, to hit some fancy automation and AI, and then to bring it back into Softr. And then I'm also going to show you how to set up graphs in Softr. It's really easy to do with this integration, and it's just another way that you could take that Xano data and bring it to life with real life graphs in Softr. And then, of course, we'll answer questions. We'll answer questions along the way, and then we'll also reserve some time at the end to answer some questions as well. But if you have questions, put them in chat. We'll try to answer them along the way in a live format, in a chat format, and then we'll also do it at the end. Cool? Cool. So at Softr, we believe that we are trying to empower anyone to create software without code, which is very similar to the mission at Xano, which is why it's so cool that we're partnering together today. We have built a platform that is super easy to use, but has a lot of power and flexibility. And so we are data agnostic, meaning we are a front end where wherever your data is, you connect your data source to it, and then we will power that data in a front end way. And we're really excited to add Xano to this list because you see we have some Google Sheets, we have Airtable, etc. And it's nice to add power and scalability there as well, while also staying in that no code ecosystem. We make it super easy to build your interface in Softr. So it's a drag and drop interface. We have tons of blocks already built for you that you can customize and change however you want to your styling, to your layouts, dynamic data, etc. So you'll drag those blocks over, you'll map those blocks to the database, and then all that data will be displayed beautifully. It's a scalable front end, and it's really quick, and everything comes automatically responsive for desktop, tablet, and mobile as well. We do focus on internal tools and portals or building things for internally for your business. That's while a lot of people use us horizontally to create MVPs, landing pages, blogs, etc. We are good for a lot of that, but our focus is really on building internal tools and portals for your company. And we're investing in a lot of infrastructure to continue to make it really easy for anybody to be able to do this at a company to build custom business tools for themselves. We also have over 100 plus templates for you to choose from. And so whether you're trying to make a portal or internal tool, etc., you can just grab one of these templates and then start building with it. And one of the things I love about our templates is the template also comes with the data source and the temp data. And so if you're new to building and new to understanding how databases work and how to set up a database, I would definitely start with a template because the template shows you all the way that you should set up your database. And it's a great learning mechanism to then go off and customize it however you might need to. But if you don't, if a template is not there for you, we do have Softr AI, which allows you to do two of things. You can either insert a prompt and we will build an app for you from that prompt, or you can feed us a database. Right now, it's only working with Airtable and Google Sheets, but hopefully Xano will be there soon. You could feed it a database, and then from that data, we will create an entire front end of the app for you as well. So a lot of ways that you can use Softr in your builds and build something incredibly fast that's really powerful for you and your team.
Awesome. Thanks for that intro to Softr, JJ. I'm gonna talk about Xano next. So as JJ mentioned, Softr and Xano's missions are very, very similar. So there's a lot of synergy here. I love the alignment. So at Xano, our mission is to empower anyone to create scalable world-class software. And to break things down a little bit, I think it's important to understand exactly what a backend is, exactly what a front end is, and how they are combined to create software or applications. So front end is everything that your user sees or interacts with. These are the buttons that a user might click on or touch on a mobile app. The backend is everything behind the scenes. So when a user does click a button, what logic kicks off in order to make that request, right? So the backend includes a server, a database to host all that content, and the API, which is a messenger or that business logic layer between your backend and your front end. So with Xano, you get the entire backend. So not just a database, you're getting a powerful server that's managed and scalable, a real-time database, and also a no-code API builder. So much more than just like a database, you're also getting that server that scales it, and also the no-code API builder so you can define all of your business logic. And with Xano, we are front-end agnostic. So you can integrate with many different front ends. And while that is especially important is, let's say, today you might start with a mobile app, but later you want to expand to a web application, and then maybe a CRM or a client dashboard. So with having one backend to be your single source of truth, you're able to power those many different front ends and really scale your application, your business, all from a single backend. And at Xano, we're 100% backend focused, built for scale. So we just want to make the best backend possible for your needs. And part of that is the infrastructure that we're built on. So we use something called Docker to provision single tenant infrastructures or dedicated servers for all of our paid plans, Kubernetes to orchestrate scaling. It's built on a PostgreSQL database, which is flexible horizontally and vertically, and all hosted on the Google Cloud platform. And it's okay if you don't know what all these technologies necessarily mean. We definitely have more information for you. But we do like to say, if you can trust the setup and infrastructure for Google's ability to scale, then you should be able to trust Xano's as well. Also, here at Xano, we're hyper-focused on compliance and security. And due to our infrastructure and the nature of giving all our users dedicated resources, we're able to accomplish a lot of these compliance and security badges you were seeing on our screen. And we're constantly going through penetration test and audit test in order to keep up to standard with these. And we're also expanding our portfolio of compliance measures. I do want to call out at the bottom there, we have our trust center, security.xano.com can be your really one-stop shop for everything compliance and security with Xano. You can even see what we're working on. If there's something you don't see on there, just reach out to us in support and we'll help you out. Also, I want to call out Xano is a no-code first tool, but we are developer friendly. So some of the features we have that are developer friendly, we're able to sidecar, host a Docker microservice. You can write direct SQL in Xano if you don't want to do it the no-code way, or connect directly to the PostgreSQL database, which we'll showcase today to make that connection to Softr. You can inject JavaScript with Lambda functions, do Redis caching. And on our enterprise plan, you're actually able to host on your own infrastructure, your own cloud. So we're able to actually deploy Xano on AWS or Azure or a GCP for those larger organizations where that's ultra important. And I do also want to call out that, we're no code first. So these features, as you scale, it's really nice to know that they're going to be, available and there for you if you need them. You might not always, but, they're going to be there. So if you do need them, you don't have to go looking for another platform to accomplish your scaling needs. Last but not least, I'll say we're here to help. So if you're new to Xano, check out our community platform. We also hold weekly orientation and office hours where we'll actually screen share and help you through your Xano questions. And then our YouTube channel has a plethora of videos. We're posting new videos every week, have a really awesome customer success team who's pushing out amazing content. If you have a Xano question, there's probably a tutorial for it. And if you can't find it, just ask us and we'll help you out.
Awesome. Thank you, Michael.
Yep.
So today we have a problem and solution that we're going to be solving. And the use case is that insurance agencies face inefficiencies in managing and visualizing policy data, leading to fragmented options and delays in accessing critical information. So let's say you have a client that's an insurance agency and they want to visualize more of their data and be able to control the policies, the clients, all that kind of stuff. And so the solution that we're going to build today is a centralized client portal using Softr and Xano to streamline that data management, to enable real-time CRUD updates and provide secure access. And so either you're an insurance provider, you can log in and see all of the policies that you own, all of your clients, edit those policies, make changes to them, pay them out, etc. Or you're a customer where you want to log in and see your own personal policy, you could do that as well. Softr makes it super easy to have permissions and role-based visibility. So only the people that can or should see the data are seeing the data. All right. So without any further ado, let's just start building. Okay. And so the first thing up today is we are going to show you how to make the connection. All right. So let me share my screen with you. All right. So here we are in Softr Studio. Okay. And for those that haven't seen it before, we have just a little interface over here. We could choose the different pages, themes, users, etc. And then in the studio here, you see if I hover, I can add a new block, right? And so if I add a new block, I have all the options to choose from either dynamic or static blocks. And in this case, what I want to do is I want to add a list block. All right. I'm going to add my first list block because this is where we're going to display all of our policies. But from there, we want to create or connect our source. And the cool thing about this is, let's say we have multiple blocks, we can connect to multiple data sources in the same page. All right. But in this example, what we're going to do is we're actually going to say add another data source, and we can see all the data sources available. And then we're going to go into Xano and then continue. Now we need to insert our Xano database information. All right. And so in order to do that, we need to hop over to Xano and get into our instance. And then once we're in an instance, we're going to go into the dots over here by the gear, and we're going to go to the database connector. All right. And once we're in the database connector, we can get the database credentials, which is going to fetch now. And Michael, you just want to take a quick second to talk about this process and what, if it's included or not included in Xano, et cetera.
Yeah, absolutely. So the database connector is going to be an additional add-on to any of our paid plans. So an additional monthly cost. Of course, with the promo, this is going to be free for those first 3 months. So once again, definitely recommend checking that out. We're not going to expose the credentials here because we don't want to expose the credentials of Softr's instance over here. But you can see there's basically two different access, right? There's read-only access and full access. For this integration, we're going to use full access, so that's reading and writing to the database, but you'll get the credentials. There's a checkbox at the bottom, so you can actually copy paste those values right into Softr as needed. But that's basically what you need for the integration. There's also, depending on how you might be connecting your PostgreSQL Xano database. We also have the public IP above there, and there's also an allow IP list from the settings panel as well.
Awesome. Thank you for that. So we're not going to do this because we already have it connected. So we're going to get out of here, and then we can see that once I click here, I can go back to my source, and I can pick the source that I'm looking for, which is Xano. And then I can choose the workspace that I'm in, right? And so your instance can have multiple workspaces. I'm going to choose my workspace. And then from there, we can choose the table that we're looking for. All right. Now with the table, we have many different options. As you can see, oh, I'm sorry. I'm going to do that again because I was sharing the wrong tab. So I'm going to go back to my source. I'm going to choose my Xano source and go to my workspace, and I can see the different workspaces. All right. And I'm going to choose our workspace, and then I'm going to say, show the tables that we're working with. And in this case, we want to pick the policy table. All right. But I also want to show or call out the relationships here, because in the policy table, we also want to show the client that it's related to, the client name. Okay. And so if I go into Xano here, I'm going to go into my instance, my workspace, and I'm going to go into my workspace right there. I'm going to go into my table, my policy table. Okay. And on the policy table, you can see that we have a relationship for the clients. And in that relationship, we have their name, their email, and an integer, right? Michael, do you mind explaining a little bit more about how these relationships work in Xano?
Yeah, absolutely. This is, I think, important to call it, especially if you're a new Xano user coming from Airtable, to call out the differences. So as you can see, our client relationship there, right? You're seeing some information about the related client, right? It looks like we see their name, their email. And then also on the right side there is a number, right? And that is the actual ID in that other table. So the way Xano actually stores the relationship is going to be that ID in the other table. We're pulling in this additional information just to help you visualize it here in the spreadsheet view. But it's important to call out that when you do call this table, you'll see the client value for Lucy. That'll actually just look like an 11. Now, in Xano, we have a number of ways where you can pull in that related data. First and foremost is if you are working with the no-code API builder, we have a feature called add-ons, which is a really awesome and efficient way to enrich that data with related data, and you can do them recursively. So if you have multiple relationships, it's super effective. You can also use things like a database trigger to actually go ahead and pull that name, which is something we're doing right now. So database triggers, you can set them up to any time. There's something like a new record, an edited record, or a deleted record. You can go ahead and create the logic of what you want to happen on that record. So right here, we're simply saying, when that new client ID is populated, that relationship, let's actually put in a field that client name. Typically, we don't always want to be storing data repeatedly in multiple places because we do have to maintain that. But for this use case, it's just really easy to pull in that client name as well.
Yeah, and I think a lot of Airtable users, you'd be familiar with this, where you need to add more columns and to, bring up your lookup fields or anything like that. And so adding the column here allows us in Softr just pull in the client name and to see that client name as well. So that's one option. But there's another option as well. And so that other option is if we go back into Softr here, and I can go to my table and I can see that I can also query. And so I can create a query in Softr that allows me to create a join, okay? So I'm going to copy and paste this in. And what this query is doing is it's our SQL query. And so it's pulling the fields from the policy table, and then it's also joining with the user name, right? So from policy and from user, and it's going to return the policy fields and then the username as well. And so this way I can join these two tables together and use that client name in this policy setting without actually manipulating any of the data, right? And so I know this, we're a no code builder, but we still offer the flexibility if you want to add your custom SQL in there to do a join, which would be a better database practice than actually doing the other one where we add the column. But still, you have both options available. You could also see that in this SQL query, I also did some formatting because I'm bringing in the policy amount, and I wanted to format that policy amount with a currency formatting. And so I was able to also format that data in my SQL query as well. All right. So again, this is a join query. And truthfully, I don't know SQL. I was able to create this using ChatGPT. So feel free and feel empowered to also venture out into the SQL query world and try to create your own queries as well. So I'm actually going to create this query. All right. And so now we have that query in there, right? And so now we have our listing here, and I can go about doing a lot of different things. The first thing you'll see down here is conditional filters. And so if I wanted to filter this data source, this listing to specific things, I can also say, hey, only show me the policies that belong to the logged in user or things like that, right? And I'm not going to do that for now, but you can, of course, filter out your data sources. And additionally, and this filtering is actually done at the server side level, which is behind encryption, is very safe. It's not done at the client level, which is another positive, okay? So over here in the main section, I can go through and I can add some fields to this. And so I see my cover media right here, and I'm going to add my policy image, my project image, all right? And then for my heading, I want to have my policy name. All right. And then for over here, I'm going to have a text field, and I want it to be my policy description. And the policy description is going to be a fun one because later on in this webinar, we're going to show you how to generate this policy description with AI without even needing to insert that. And then as you see, I can either stack my columns or have them horizontally, which I'm going to stack for now. And then I'm going to move down and just quickly just fill in the rest of the second section here. And so this is going to be my policy status. And for those that haven't used Softr before, you can see how quick it is to really visualize this data. I'm doing it real time with you, which is super fun. So this is going to be the clients, the related clients. Let's see here. I don't have that one, so I'm going to skip that one. I have ID here. So the client ID, here it is, client ID. And then I have a next one. I'm going to have a policy amount. Policy amount. All right, and then almost done. And then I'm gonna have to create a date. And then we'll just do the policy location and we'll end that up. Policy. You can see I'm just mapping these fields together there. Policy location. And then I'm just gonna get rid of that one. All right, so I have this right here, and I have additional like search bars I can either toggle on or off. I have these filters that I can either toggle on or off. For now, I'm just going to get rid of that. and I can see I have this nice experience. All right. And so if I wanted to preview that, I could preview it and I can see that this is coming through the data from Xano. I can click to expand, and that's really cool. All right. Another thing that I want to show you is our action buttons. All right. So if I go back here, one of the great things about this integration with Xano is where we have the ability to create these buttons, these action buttons. And so, for example, I'm just going to add this one. For example, let's say we want to create a new policy, right? So if I wanted to create a new policy, let's see, right? 1 second here. That one's not coming up for me. I don't know why I'm not getting this right now, but I'm going to try it another way here. Let's see. Click to expand, take that off, top bar button. No, that's still not coming through. All right, no worries. I got another way that we can do this. All right, so I'm going to come over here. All right, and I see that I have my buttons here, okay? And so what I'm trying to show you here is with these buttons, these top bar buttons, we have the ability to have built-in CRUD without ever having to create any kind of API call. All right, so the idea is you have this button, and then with this button, you can choose, the inputs that you want. And then from there, it's as simple as that button is created. And you can use this in any kind of create, update, or delete mechanism, right? And so we have a new policy button there. And then we also have a view policy, which will just take us to that different page. And then we also have a generate description button, which is what we're going to get to in just a couple seconds. And then we have an edit record. And so this edit one will allow us to simply pull in this record and to see it from there. And so let's see if we can preview this. All right, so we have our listing here. If we wanted to view the policy, it'd bring us to that policy page. If we wanted to actually go through and edit that policy, we can see that we can change the status of this right here, right? And then it'd be as simple as updating that status from there. And then here is the generate description button. All right.
JJ, I think we're still on a screen. Oh, maybe there we are now.
Sorry, I lost you on that one.
No,
I'm going to take that again real quick. So I'm just going to edit the policy. I'm going to show you, we have these built-in pop-ups for you, making it really easy to edit the data, and you can choose any fields that you want to edit. You can also view here, new policy here. So all these pop-ups comes built in for you, making it really easy just to add these buttons, and all the modals and all that kind of stuff is built. But we have this generate description button. Before I get there, Michael, have I missed anything along the way?
I don't think so. I mean, I think we're tracking well here.
All right. Awesome.
Yeah.
All right. So let's continue with the generate description button then, because that's a really fun one. And for this, what we're going to do is we're using a call API action in Softr. All right. And so we have this button, and with buttons, you can add lots of different actions, updates, deletes, downloads, edits, etc. Right. Along with the call API function. And so this allows you to hit an API that we have built in Xano, and you could choose the method, and then you can send data with that. All right. And so I'm going to come over here. Michael, do you want to share, or do you want me to continue to share?
Yeah, I'll go ahead, jump in and share real quick.
Cool. Michael's going to walk us through the API that he's built for this with the AI functionality. We'll walk through that, and then we can show you how you can trigger that.
Awesome. All right. And first of all, I just want to also call out again, JJ, I know you stated it, but just the speed of development that you saw JJ just run through. I mean, it's just incredible how quickly you can get things set up, map, and have something ready to show and preview. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
So cool. Let's talk about this generate description API call that we're going to use with OpenAI. So I'm going to just navigate to my API page here. I'm in a API group. You could organize API endpoints into different groupings. Obviously, we have, sort of a simple demo here to show. So we just have a couple API endpoints, one group. I'm going to go ahead and click into this one that we've created for this demo called Generate AI Description. And I want to take a second and take a step back here so we can talk about what we're seeing on the screen. I know we showed database triggers very, very briefly, which is sort of stemmed from this UI you're seeing right here. This is our no-code API builder. And what we've done is we've created the basic anatomy or workflow of an API endpoint. And we're saying there's three main parts to it. First being inputs or query parameters. So just any information that your API endpoint needs to take in. Here you can see we're taking in the ID of that policy record. 2 is our function stack, and this is the actual inner workings of our API endpoint. This is what our API is actually doing. We call this a function stack because, as you can see here, we can stack these different functions in here, and you can see I have 5 in this case, and they'll be performed in a linear fashion. And we'll go through more about what all this is. I just want to set a primer first. And last but not least, third being a response. So something optionally that we might need to send to our front end or another service, wherever this API is being connected to. But I do want to go back to this function stack here. So once again, we can stack these functions, and you'll see here, for example, this top one here says get record from policies. On the right here, return as in orange or red, however this is kind of rendering for you on your screen, policies 1. Why is that important? Well, each of these no-code functions, if you will perform some logic, and it'll produce the output of that logic in the form of these variables. So we can start to actually pass the data inside these variables down through our function stack if we need to manipulate it, send it to another service like OpenAI, put the data in the database, whatever we want to do with it really, or even put it in the output here like we're doing in our response. So real quick, I want to go ahead and quickly talk through some of this business logic. So once again, we're taking in the policy ID, the ID of that policy record. We're simply going and getting the record based on that ID. And why we're doing that is because we want to use that policy name to actually call OpenAI. And I'll just go ahead and open this call here. A couple things I want to point out. You can actually import the curl command. So a lot of times when you're working with third-party services like OpenAI, like an email provider, a text message provider, they'll often have a curl command in their API documentation, which is like an example call. You can actually hit this button, paste it in. I did this for the OpenAI call.
Super fast.
Yeah, and Xano will programmatically actually build this API call, and then you can just dynamically swap in the values that you want to. So for example, I went ahead and wrote in a prompt here. I'm doing some variable text substitution, some dynamic text substitution to get the policy name from that record. We can even put in our API key here dynamically. We can store it in a safe place, which we call environment variables here in Xano, so you can reference them without exposing them on my screen right now. So that's the OpenAI call in a nutshell. I'm just setting a precondition here to make sure that call was successful. If not, this API endpoint, this Xano one, will throw an error so we can know on our front end, something went wrong. We can even define a custom error message here. So you can tell your front end whatever you need to. Last but not least, we're just isolating the description from OpenAI. And you can see here, there's this long value on this variable, and this is called dot notation. And this just lets us basically shave down the response to get exactly what we want. And last but not least, we're just updating that record in policies with the description and returning that back to Softr. So that's it in a nutshell. One other thing I want to point out, well, you can easily get the endpoint URL, which JJ already showed in Softr, just by clicking that button and copying. So you can just copy and paste it. And yeah, am I missing anything, JJ?
No, I think that's awesome. I love this. There's so many things that you can do with it. And again, for our Airtable and Make and Zapier users, like Xano allows you to almost combine all that into Xano itself, where you have the database, you have the API builder, you have your triggers, and you can just use Xano and Softr together, but still call the APIs in Xano, transform all the data, hit external APIs. There's just so much functionality and power that you can use with this combo that is really exciting. It's quickly turned into my go-to stack whenever I'm building new software apps. And so it's just really exciting to see this come to life. And maybe it reduces your dependency on other platforms as well outside of your database now, because Xano allows you to do so much here.
Awesome. I'll go ahead and stop sharing.
All right, I'm going to answer a couple questions here, and then we'll show you how that API call works. And so the first question is coming from Chris. Chris, can the custom query use dynamic filters where clause such as only showing records for the current user? Yes, you can use a custom query to get the information that you want. I'm not sure if you'd include the conditional filtering in the query itself, but you would also have the ability within Softr to conditional filter on top of that query, which again is done at the server level, so it's still safe. And so that would take the query and the conditional filters and only return the results relevant to the current user or relevant to anybody that you want in that very safe and filtered way. Okay, we have another one here. I think this might be a similar one. Is it possible to build business logic, finance math on the front end side with Softr? By finance math, I mean something like take these two parameters from input field, multiply this, and show the result. So unfortunately, the answer is no, but there are ways to do this. And the way that I would do this is I would do that math already in Xano and build those fields ahead of time and then display the results from that in Softr on the front end. All right. So unfortunately, client side, you can't do that. But you can do this server side in Xano, prepare those fields, and then serve it up client side with Softr.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you can use either database triggers or the no-code API builder to do that business logic on Xano.
Awesome. So let's show you this in action then. I'm going to go over here, share my screen, share the right one this time. So one of the things that we have is we have the policy description, right? And so I'm just going to go through and I'm going to delete one of these policy descriptions there. So we can do it with our new API call on the front end. And again, on the front end, we have this generate description button, right? And so what it is that the call API action.
Oh, JJ, we still see Xano right now. There it is.
Thank you. Too many windows today. We have this call API button. We go to actions. We see the generate description. We add our endpoint URL right there, design the post method. We are including the policy ID. And then for that, we're just finding the selected record. Softr exposes all these values, and then we can go in there and then expose that value in a variable way. And that's all we need on that side. And so if I preview this, I can find the one that maybe doesn't have the description right there. And I'm just going to generate that description. And it's just going to take a couple of seconds because it is,
I think we're seeing the wrong screen again. Yes.
Sorry, I don't normally fail this much. Windows are hard today. And so I hit that button right there. I'm just going to refresh the page and it's already there for us. And so it's a really nice way where you can call that API and insert some kind of AI into your workflows and have that data updated. So it's a really cool thing that we have there with the ability to combine Softr and Xano in that API-like way.
All right, so ChatGPT is clever. Clear protection for every pain, rain, or shine.
All with just a policy name, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. You found it? Very nice. So we have two more things that I want to talk about. The first thing is how can we create new policies with linked records, right? Because again, we are, we're seeing linked records a little differently than we might see in Airtable and others. So I want to show you that. And then I also want to show you how to set up graphs. Anything else on your side, Michael, before we got into both of those?
No, let's jump into it.
All right, cool. So I'm going to share this screen back. And so I'm going to navigate over to my client screen here. Okay. And so let's say that I am an insurance owner and I want to show my list of clients. Okay. So I have a client listing here. And then from there, what I can do is I can preview my client screen. I can click on or view this client, for example, and it's going to bring us to a client detail page. Okay. So we're now just showing the details for one client, right? Now I could edit the details for that client. And then I also added a listing here, which I'm just going to show you. I'm going to switch back, go to my client detail and show you that up here, I have a client detail block. And then down here, I have a different block. It's a listing block. And it's just showing the policies that belong to this client. Okay. Now in this policies, I have the ability to create a new policy. All right. And when I go to and create that new policy, what I can do is I can pass the record of the client that is selected on this page. So when I go to Xano and I hit add record, I can create a new policy, policy name, project image, policy image, all that kind of stuff, right? And then to assign the client that policy relates to, that relationship, again, I can use a hidden field in Xano Softr, which means I'm actually not going to show the user that field, I'm just going to pass it, via the API call that is already kind of set up for us in Xano Softr. And I'm going to map it to the client, and I'm going to pull the ID for the details page record. Okay. Again, we are exposed these values, and I can pull the ID right there. And then from that, it will allow us to create that relationship for this policy belongs to this client kind of thing. All right. In the future, we will continue to expand on this integration, and it'll allow you to maybe, not have to go through this method, and you can just create, add a new policy and maybe see all of your clients from a dropdown. But for now, this is how we have to go around for creating new things with linked records, linked relationships assigned to them. Michael, do you want to touch on lookup fields or rollup fields or at all?
Yeah, absolutely. So another important point, especially if you're coming from Airtable, we talked about the client field and how that relationship is stored as an integer. And you can use something like a database trigger to pull in that name on that client name field to the right. Similar with Xano, our approach is a little bit different than Airtable, where all their transformations are done on the front end. All our transformations in data manipulation is done through what stems from our no-code API builder. Database triggers sort of being an extension of that UI. So if you do have like any kind of calculated fields or kind of roll-up fields that you might want to happen immediately if you're right here in the database, or if that data is coming through the API, there's two options. One is the database triggers, which we showed there in the top right. So you can actually define whatever logic for any type of rollups you need to have on a field. That's super helpful, especially if you're going to be entering data raw into the spreadsheet view, but also the no-code API builder. So if you are expecting your data to come directly through the API, you can have that logic in there. Database triggers can kind of sort of be a catch-all. So just want to call out, it's a different approach than the transformations happening kind of inline on the front end. But all that power in calculations, I would say even more is there.
Awesome. Xano also provides a Airtable migration service. And so you can take your Airtable base and it will bring it into Xano. How would I go about that, Michael?
Yeah, it's a great call out. So if you just actually, you can go back into that workspace there.
Okay.
Yeah, so Xano will actually import your Airtable base. So yeah, go ahead and click in your workspace and go to the database section on the left navigation bar. And just at the top right, where it says add table, and click import data. Yeah, so you can actually import your entire Airtable base will preserve all the relationships and also attachments. You can choose to, import select views if you prefer, depending on what your setup is in Airtable. But this is a really quick and easy way to get started, to have all your data and relationships preserved in Xano. So then you can just start to focus on, okay, now building out the business logic or connecting to my Softr front end right away. So super easy, super quick. You just need to drop in your access token from Airtable. We have documentation on where to find that. And you're really out the gates running.
You know what? I actually used that for this demo set as well. I had all this in Airtable, used that feature, got it here. And there were some things like relationships, all rollups, all that kind of stuff that now I know how to handle, and we're up and running.
Awesome.
Beautiful. All right. So the last thing that I want to show you today is we are going to add a graph to our policy page here. Okay. And so there's a lot of benefits with adding charts. You want to visualize that data, et cetera. And sometimes creating charts from an API layer can be a little bit difficult. But if we go into Softr, we add block, we go to charts, we can see that there's a lot of plug and play charts ready for us. All right. And in this case, I'm going to pull a line chart. And on that line chart, I'm just going to go and pick the data source that I want, just like all other things. And again, I'm going to pick the policy data source. I can add conditional filtering on this if I only want to show select records or not. But otherwise, I'm going to go for it. I'm going to say I can update my title, policies, something like that. I could choose what type of chart I want. So if I want to switch it on the fly, anything, I can do that. And then it's really as simple as just choosing which columns we want to use. So for an example, we can choose the policy amount. And then we can also choose maybe the create date. And then from there, we have a graph up and running. We can choose a lot of different customizations to customize it how we see fit or best fit for our business. But I mean, it's really that simple to get a graph up and running in just 10 seconds. So it's really exciting. Next week, we actually have the columns launching, or in the next couple of weeks. And what I mean by columns is you'll be able to build a new block where you can have graphs side by side and create that true dashboard look. And so that's just another thing at Softr, just like Xano, we're shipping all the time. And so these two stacks together, not only is it super simple, but powerful, the continuous updates from both of our teams attacking, on both sides. It's really exciting to see, the power that you all have in your hands now. I personally have been using and following Zaino for a long time, and it was always my go-to option where I needed, a reliable data source. Where if a client came to me and was like, "Hey, we have millions of records, we need to be this trustworthy, performant," Zaino was always that option, no matter what platform I was with at the time. And so that still rings through to today. And the really cool part about it now being accessible in Softr is we like to think that Softr is almost like the Canva for your organization, where anybody, even if they don't know code or anything, can get in there and just build a graph like I just built, right? It was literally 5 clicks and I had that graph up and running. So we like to think that it's really the simplicity meets the power. And even if you're using Zaino for like a Zaino WeWeb build, but you just want to create a super easy client portal for like your clients to log in from an admin perspective and just visualize some of their data, you could also throw Softr into that and just visualize that data as well, but not maybe use it for your SaaS application that you might be. So there's a lot of different ways that you can use this integration. And we're super excited to get it out to you all today.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll echo a lot of what JJ just said. And from our side of things, I mean, we couldn't be more excited to finally be able to connect to Softr. I mean, you saw just how easy it is to use, and I love that comparison, the Canva of application building, right? Anyone can go in there, build something visually beautiful that makes sense, map your data very, very quickly. It just unlocks, I think, so many things on our side for our Xano users who do want to build, beautiful, quick client apps, internal tools right away. So to have that connection and know it's only going to get improved and stronger even over time, I think it is just so awesome.
Yeah. So at this point, we'll open it up for questions. The first one that I have is from Ben. He's asking, what is that logged in username on my screen? And so I switched over to the preview, and that just allows us to display dynamic text. And so one of the really cool things about Softr is it's super easy to switch how you're authenticating that application. So for example, right now I'm running this application as this user, but if I wanted to run the application as this user, I would just switch over, and now I'm authenticated as this user. And that's my updated name for that user. Or I can just authenticate as a non-logged in user. And so managing your application is also really easy. If someone calls you up and says, "Hey, this user has a bug," well, I can go into that user and preview exactly what they're seeing and then fix it on the fly. And of course, publish that as well. So that's great. Let's see. We have another one from Eric here. We could see the Airtable and CSV import function. Are there other native DB format we could import? For example, a very old Lotus approach DB format .apr. What about that one, Michael?
So right now, the native import functionalities are both Airtable and CSV. I'm not super familiar with the Lotus approach DB format APR, but if it has an API layer, or if there's a way to get an API layer on it, you can always call that with Xano and then add those records to the database. So Xano can call any external API. So if you do have a database that has an API layer, but and you're trying to figure out how to get that data into Xano, you can call that. Otherwise, I would say look for exporting into a CSV option. Those would probably be the two best ways forward right now.
Awesome. We have another question from David. Is it possible to have dynamic drop-down values in Softr? So yes, of course. We only want to show the data that should be showing to your users, right? And another thing that I haven't showed you in this webinar yet is we have in our users tab, you can go to user groups and you can define different user roles, right? And it's as simple as saying, the role of this user is consultant. And from there, we can assign very basic visibility conditions. So let's say, for example, that certain users can only see this graph. And so I can go to visibility and I can say logged in users, only my admins and consultants can see this graph. Otherwise, it's invisible to clients. And then from there, that handling will happen on the server side, all that rendering. And so this block would never be available. It can also apply to buttons. If you want only certain buttons to happen. So this button can only be visible to admins. We only want admins to be able to make a new policy. Boom, that's it. This button won't show up for anyone else. And then finally, the last thing I'll say is we have global data restrictions. And while they're not supported for Xano yet, this allows you to create data restrictions at a global level, meaning clients can only see the data that belongs to clients. And these are global server-side restrictions that will ensure that this data never leaks in any way and is protected. And this includes drop-down filters. And so you can use global data restrictions to restrict this data to make sure that the only relevant options in a drop-down would be the options that belong to that client as well. David, I'm not answering your question. How can I answer your question more? Did I work with Airtable? Maybe I did it wrong. Editing a record. Please feel free to add more context. Sorry about that. Let's get into Ben here. He has a question about Xano. Xano charges a general user fee and another fee to connect to Softr. Please break it down. What do you think, Michael?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's not necessarily a fee to connect to Softr. It's a fee to connect directly to the PostgreSQL database. So it is an additional add-on to a Xano paid plan. The reason for that is, we don't see necessarily it as always a core functionality. Now that might change. It might be something we sort of eventually include, but we do recognize that. And that's why we're offering 3 months of it completely free. So you can get started with this promotion with any self-serve Xano plan for free, including any of the add-ons, which includes that database connector. So go ahead and try it out, and you can see if it's for you and you like the power of it.
Awesome. Well, we will be sending you all a recording of this webinar after the fact. We're also going to post it on YouTube. Also, in the email, we will send more details about the promo that you guys can access for a free month of Softr and 3 months of Xano. It's a really great promo right now. Again, if you're using Xano or Softr for any kind of real application building, client portals, internal tools for a company that has lots of records, this is definitely my go-to stack that I would recommend for you. There's just so much power and scalability mixed with simplicity. I hope you guys really benefited from this. Michael and I are always available to the public, so feel free to ping us on socials, emails. You'll find us everywhere if you have additional questions that we just didn't answer for you today. But otherwise, we really appreciate you all for tuning into this webinar. We hope you are excited as we are about this integration, and we'll be in touch via email and other after the fact. But otherwise, appreciate you all.
Thanks, everyone, so much.